very dusty. Yeah.
So this is where you do all the bending, lahat
Yes,
dito.
everything, yeah.
But the guitars are stored upstairs, diba?
Yeah, because it's so dusty here, it's so hot.
But everything is done here.
Yeah. So, this is my dry room.
Okay.
So, you might want to take a look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there. Yung mga stock ng kahoy na dyan, for aging. And there's a drying machine. And that's where I season my wood. Ganyan, season na sila. That's it.
So that's where the rosewood is?
Yeah, the rosewood, the cedar, spruce, meron pa dyan.
And
By the way, I'm supposed to switch the
I think,
drying machine.
how does the rosewood plants look? So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of AC Convos. Great privilege to be here in his home in Merville, Parañaque with one of the Philippine guitar pioneers, Maestro Raul Manica. So, sir,
Good afternoon.
thank you very much for being
Good
with us.
afternoon.
So, everyone in the guitar community has a good idea of your book, your playing, and your work as a guitarist, but we'd like to share to our younger audiences. Who is Raul Manica? How did you become a guitarist? All that.
I come from a family of, professionals. I mean, my parents.
Yeah.
But us, the siblings, have been very, very much drawn into the arts. So I have a brother, Spanky, who's an actor and stage director. He was the best supporting role in Himala of Nora Honor, directed by Ben Cervantes. He part in a lot of other plays and movies. I have a sister who is a soprano, Noemi Manigan Gomez, who was
Really?
very much the favorite of Tanghalang Pilipino in their zarzuelas and stage plays. Been there for a long, long time. And I have uncles who were also playing guitar, but they were playing the kind of bluegrass guitar. So this exposed to this kind of things, I naturally fell into the embrace of the guitar sound. But before that, I was a rock guitarist.
Electric guitarist as
Yeah.
well. Huh?
Because those were the times of the Ventures and the Shadows, and even in the Beatles. So
Beatles.
I had a band. We had a band, and my brothers, who were all members of a Greek lettered society in UP, they were steeped in their liberal arts education and taste. And one day, my older brother told me, "Stop playing that barbarian music."
Oh, really?
Yes. I have 2 tickets here. You can take someone with you, but I want you to go to this concert. I want you to see what guitar is all about or what the guitar can do. And this was I think, in 64, 64, 65, 63, thereabouts. Cannot so recall. So we were staying in Makati, and going to UP was such a long ride. But anyway, long and short of it, I went. And after that concert, I was in tears because I could not imagine how the guitar could be and to make it sing, make it fly. And the artist who was featured there was Maria Luisa Anido.
She's Argentinian, I think?
Yes,
or-
Argentina. She's the partner of Yobet,
Yes.
who's
yes.
the favorite or the top student of Tariga.
Yes.
So that was the first time I saw her. And then after that, I said, I will never play barbarian music again.
No more electric guitars.
No more electrical. So because my mom bought that from Hong Kong, so I was just strumming. So what happened after that was I could not, because there were no and I'm not so familiar with the circuit before, I could not get my hands on a classical guitar. But luckily, my father, who loves to play guitar too because that's fun. He had a Spanish guitar. It's a Vicente Tatay from Valencia, Spain.
Vicente Tatay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was just stored in up in the attic because nobody was playing it because the fingerboard obviously was depressed and could not be played. So I saw it, I found it, and I took that guitar to Raon for repair. And then that became a guitar for a good 10 years. So I started to go and research for music in Manila, the old street there called Platerias, Raon, Bay. And you could not find
Scores,
That's
you mean,
very
right?
hard to find scores.
Yes,
But
sir.
there was a book by this guy, Nick Manoloff. He's a jazz guitarist, and that taught you how to read notes. And from there, I studied by myself and really got to a very good grasp of the fundamentals of note reading and playing. So from there, I was able to get other books like Fernando Sor, Villalobos, Etudes, everything. But I was basically on my own. So a few houses away from us, there lived a writer, D. Paulo Dizon. He's a very famous columnist and also author, whose wife, Edith Dizon, was a good friend of Lucrecia Casilag.
Who was the dean of
Yeah,
PWU
at the time.
Yeah.
So they
The
were close
professor.
friends. And one of the things that she was doing was that they had a kind of orphanage
Yeah.
taking care of small children from the provinces, mainly from Visayas, Iloilo, and Negros. And they were taking him there to teach them music. In fact, they had a chamber music. And the guy who was holding it was Professor Max Isla. He's a violinist. He's quite good. And, well, that thing gave me an opportunity or helped me because one time while I was practicing my guitar in the porch of our house, the oldest son, his name is Dylan, he dropped by and said, Raul, are you interested in really learning it formally? Did someone teach you? No, I said, it's just by myself. He said, you come with me on Saturday, we'll go to UP. I want you to meet this guy, Mike Gonzalez. He's the son of NVM, the National Army. And from there, pick it up because they have a group there that's really into formal guitar playing.
Yeah.
Long and short, I met Mike Gonzalez, and then he told me, "Oh, you come," because I said, I heard of this guy, Jose Pellicer, who's a good teacher.
I've heard
Yeah, I
about
said
him too.
you can come here, meet him on this. We were having a soiree on Sunday. So I went there. It was a very nice group. We were about 8 different people, and each of one parang masterclass. So oh, you play. So said,
Feedback.
yeah, feedback, and
Yeah.
then ask questions. So everyone was wow. Eh mga estudyante ni Pilisan lahat yun, kaya he was so gentle with them and kind of them. And then here I am, an outsider. Oh, you? He said, okay, come over. Oh, Raul, go ahead, play. So at the time, because I was on my own, I had nails. My nails were really very prominent.
Yeah.
And so I started to play. Ano gusto tutugtugin mo? Napili siya. Ano po? I will play Recuerdos de la Alhambra by Fast. Oh, very good. Muy bien. Said, oh, bueno, sige. Tugtog. Pag tugtog ko, wala pa yung wala pa yung natatapos yung minor part na ano. Hula! Stopped! I was shocked and then he said, siguro si Tarico may ikot sa kanya ang taol. Hindi ganyan. Sabi niya, yung kuko mo, saksakan ng haba. Alam mo ba na sila, Tarica, wala silang kuko. Kukunti lang kung meron man, pero...
Okay.
And then Pellicer also, and then showed me, ako, tignan mo, sa Baguio. He's actually a chemical chemist, and he was assaying gold. The chemicals got burned, and you can see his hands, and that's it. Wow. I was so, wow, hindi na stop yung guitar. Yeah, I said, wow, this thing is really awful. And then, sige, kain, merienda, sosyalan. I was just sitting alone. Hindi ako kilala eh.
How old were you at this time, sir?
Oh, well, I was 16, 17.
16 years old, huh?
Yeah. Sabi ko, grabe ito. Ganito pala ito. So, I wanted to go home. But Mike, who really, we became good friends. I mean, hey, Raul, stay here. Let's go usapan natin Jubilee, sir. After that, kayo. So, time to say goodbye. Nag-aalis na. And then, nilupitan, Maestro, to si Raul, naghahanap na ng teacher. Gusto mo ganun ba? O, usap kami. So, sabi niya, sige. Gusto mo mag-aral? Oo po. Sabi ko, sige. Ano na ba ang mga tinutugtog mo? So, I told him what I could play. Fernando Sol. And then he said, okay, you come to me. You go in a place in Pasay. That's where he was teaching. You go there. Because at the time, I was already in my first year engineering in LaSalle.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's easy. So I go there. So our first meeting, sa akin. Oh, and then before we parted ways in UP, he said, alam mo ba kung magkakano tuition? Magkano po? Sabi niya, 25 pesos per lesson.
Okay. At that time,
At that time, 1963-64, an accounting graduate, let's say working for SGV, would receive an average salary of about 120, 130 pesos.
mataas na siya at that time.
That's really high.
25 pesos,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's at that time too, you can rent an apartment somewhere in Manila at about 120 per month. So 25 pesos was about 1/5 of what an average salary was and a rent at the time. So kind of high. So I could not, went home, but I could not ask my parents for
Allowance for that,
allowance
yeah.
for the guitar because, the tuition at LaSalle was just really expensive already.
Even at that time, DLSU was
LaSalle
very...
talaga mahal. First lesson, punta ako doon. Okay. Tugtog ka ulit. Ako saan. Pero this time, I mended my nails. It looks good, but still a little
Still
long.
there, no? Not completely
hindi
taken out.
hindi mukhang agresibo kasi nung una parang
Mahaba masyado.
kasi anyway because that nail will repeat itself with the Ernesto Bitetti, that Spanish
yes. Definitely.
sinabonan din ni Pelisan yung tungkol sa anyway, you will go to that. So, first lesson, when I was there, tugtog. Okay, Fernando Sol, I gave him about 3 studies. Villalobos Prelude, I did about 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And then, Villalobos Etudes. Tinira ko lahat siya yung mga He was just silent the whole thing. And then he said, okay, I'll take you as my student. And then, sabi niya, pero sabi ko, isip ako naman. I was just quiet. He was probably anticipating. Yung tuition mo, 5 piso.
You got a big discount.
Wow! Sabi ko, kaya nga dahil kasi I can just shave that off from my allowance,
Yes,
which
yes.
is about mga 15 pesos a week.
A week,
Transportation, food. Cut down on the food. That's it. So I started the lesson. I was practicing 8 hours a day.
8 hours a day.
After my school, I was, up to about the hours of in the morning, mga 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock,
Nag-i-insert.
sleep. Yeah. And then what I did, because na-inspire ako dun sa image na Nido, yung fluorescent lamp ng kwarto ko, pinapalitan ko, ng bulb, parang stage light.
That's what I remember. I think you told me this more than 10 years ago, that you would make the ambience feel like a hall. You know? And you'd even put on a coat,
That's true.
leather shoes,
Yeah.
but you were in your room.
Yeah.
So, at least the mindset is
What does
performance.
it feel to be in there? So, say here, tug. I was really, you can tell at a stop of the finger, I can pick up the guitar and keep you listening for at least 45 minutes. So, sabi sa akin after 3 to 4, wala na akong may tuturo sa iyo, iho. But sabi niya, you know what? No. Sabi ko, Maestro, but I'm still looking for something. I'm not sure whether I have the right temperament for this. Yeah, sabi niya. Good, you asked that question. Because, obviously, because he was not so technically proficient because he had all this problem with his hands.
Yeah.
Sabi niya, sa bahay, doon sa bahay niya naman, sa Moranto, near Moranto Stadium, yan?
Yeah.
I forgot the street
I
there
think that's
already.
Quezon City area.
Yeah, at the back of Amoranto. So, when I got there, he told me, showed me the picture of Anido. Oh, kilala mo ba itong babaeng to? Nakita ko sa UP.
Napanood mo?
Oo. Nadinig mo ba yung music niya? Ano? And then Anido gave him a recording ni Anido,
I
ganyan.
think an LP ba tawag
Oh,
nun?
maliit pa lang, maliit lang. Parang between a 45 and a 78.
Yes,
So
yes.
he played the pieces I was playing, Fernando Sor, Granados, Dance Number 5, Villalobos. And then he said, oh, sabi niya, you will hear. That's what you will have to learn from me. How to feel, how to understand, and how to make that music come out in another form na hindi lang at that time. So yun. So that's what. I stayed with him. So punta ka lang dito at anytime you want. So I was just going there. Maestro, yan. O sige, punta ka na. Then we will talk. I have another piece and then we will talk.
Yes.
In fact, no guitar playing. It's just about, ano ba nangyari sa
Conversation.
Conversation about what happened.
And that was still 5 pesos a class.
No more na.
Libre na.
Libre na.
Okay.
After 3 months, libre na. You know? And then even after several years, pinamana niya sa akin yung gitara niyang Kono.
Kono.
The
He
one
had
that,
the Kono.
Yeah,
Oh.
I had the Kono, number 10. Anyway, we will go to
We'll get
that.
there, yes, sir.
So what happened after that, so one day, I want to meet your father. Sabi ko, sige po. So, ito address namin, came to the house. And then, he met my father. Kaya pala niya gustong pakilala yung tatay ko. Kasi yung pamilya nila before, they had a very big store in Escolta.
Manila.
Oo, yung Pellicers. It was a big store of parang general merchandise.
Yes, yes.
And they were doing a lot of importation, selling there. In fact, yung isa, meron siyang sinasabing Parsons. And he wanted to meet my father because my father was a customs official before.
He was a government employee.
Oh, he
also.
was a commissioner of customs for a while. So, nagkakilala sila. And then finally, when my father and Benizar ended their conversation, sabi niya, I want to put your son in the concert stage. Will you permit me to do that? Of course, you can do that.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was so proper. I don't know that the generation they really are so proper about things. So yeah, from there, he mentored me on music making, lahat, etc. And then of course, I had a lot of in the course of those things. I had a lot of exposure with other teachers. Gaya nila Lucio San Pedro, with whom I studied on harmony with him in Angono. But that did not happen. The dream of his did not happen until I was 37 years old.
When you first
38 years old when I played in CCP.
Yeah.
Because at that time, when I already had gotten wind of what I'm supposed to do, I was playing everything, mga transcription, etc., etc. But it got to the point, Adric, that I said, I didn't feel really attached to what I was doing because it was borrowed music, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Kundiman, Western, transcriptions. So that thing drove me. Said there must be something I must do with this guitar thing in my life. Because early on, I was president of the Guitar Society.
Yes.
Kami nila Mike Dada. So I saw there already the view of what I think I wanted to do. So anyway, before that 87 concert, so I met a lot of guitarists before. I met Julian Brim.
Here.
He played here.
Julian Brim
Yeah.
was here. Huh?
Narciso Yepes.
Wow.
Yeah, sila Ernesto Biteti.
Yes, that's what,
Marami sila. In fact, Anido, on her third visit, we had a dinner in the house of Pellicer. I was telling Pellicer, I'd like to bring your student, this student. He was pointing to me because there were several also places, but I want to bring the student to Buenos Aires. I want him to study with me. Yeah. Wow. And then, what Pellicer said? No, not yet. He's not prepared yet. With all the thing. No, because he was, siyempre, magpapakawala ka ng bata mo, tapos hilaw sa, technique, pero hilaw sa music, I could see what why he said that. Said, anyo próximo.
Next
Okay,
year.
next year.
Proximo.
Because sabi ni Anito, I'll be back here. O sige, kukunin ko niya. In that year, she died.
Oh.
And the year, or got sick, and the guy who took his place to come here was his top student, Omar Atreo.
That's not a familiar
He's a
name.
winner in the Paris competition also. Very
is,
good.
Is this the Radio France competition?
Oh, Radio
that
France.
was the big one that
yeah,
Alvaro
that was the
Pierri,
best. Yeah.
Pablo
Before
Marquez.
anything else, Radio France first.
Yeah.
So what happened there is that when that thing didn't happen, I just said I'll just do a lot of research, do a lot of things, and then build up a repertoire of original guitar Filipino music.
Yes.
So I really worked that out to the point that I was able to build. Sabi ko, I want to play a program na puro original guitar music, Filipino. I did that. Pero kaya lang kulang. Kasi yung research materials ko, kalahati lang ang program yung nabuo. And besides, I said, maglaki naman tayo ng konting attraction for people to watch. So, yung first was all Filipino. And it's there in the video I gave. And then the second was, I played that very popular at the time, the Claude Bolin Jazz Concerto for guitar and jazz piano. So, I played that there. That night, I made it really special because this thing does not belong to me. It belongs to a man who coached the generation of guitarists with me, and that's Pelizer. And you can see in that, pinoko sa kanya, he was really hard. At the time, he was already sick. He was already sick,
How
emphysema.
old was he at that time, kaya?
Oh,
In 76.
I think he died mga 78, 70. So he was probably what? Mga 74? Maybe just about my age now, 75, 76.
To do that, I'd like to seize this opportunity with your kind permission to pay tribute to a man who I think has contributed a lot to the development of guitar in the Philippines. And he has silently carried this work quite silently without much praises and all this big thing about his work. And he has developed a generation of guitarists in the Philippines, which I am part of. And I would like to invite you to give him a warm applause. The man to whom this garland rightfully belongs, a man I'm proud to call my maestro, Jose Maria Teiset.
You know, that at the time, ang promoter, because you were asking if CCP was not so active yet.
Who was bringing in the
Ang mga nagdadala nun,
performance,
itong si Impresario Lozano, Alfredo Lozano, and si Red Romero, yung conductor. They were impresarios. Si Lozano, he brought in Julian Brim and Narciso Yepes.
Yeah.
I met Julian Brim, I think, with Pellicer also. Dumating siya dito, such a nice fellow. After the concert, doon pa sa Film Life.
Film Life.
Oo, what's up? Oh, yung gitara mo, ganda. Oh, sabi niya, this is a house, sir. But look at this. Namin yung likod. At sabi niya, it still sounds good.
The house.
Yeah, I mean, people say, yeah, yes, maestro, it sounds good. Yeah, by the way, come here. So, pinuntahan niya si maestro. Punta siya, why? Sabi niya, sinukat niya yung likod. Yan. Tapos, ginanon niya yung sarili niya. I want that shirt. Yung barong Tagalog na.
Ano gusto ka ni Brig yung barong? No?
Tinanggal niya siya. Ay, nakakasado. Kukunin. Ay. It was such a fun to I can tell happen Julian Brig.
But Brim played very well, of course. No?
Fantastic. You know, at the time, si Govia yung yung benchmark mo. Pero
yeah.
when we saw Brim, wala. Pucha. Ewan ko doon sa mga iba. He brought a lot of his modern music also eh. So, of course, played the Scarlatti,
Yes.
Bach. Pero yung niya.
Berkeley sonatas,
Oo.
he had those.
Reginald Smith. Yun.
But for example, Siegfried Baron.
Ay, he was my teacher.
Siegfried Baron?
Yeah,
did you-
I had several lessons with him. In fact, he was inviting me to Berlin. Beren was one of the earlier, I remember the first lesson I had with him because I said, wow, I like to play that Bach. Prelude in D.
Yeah.
He was playing it so uniform. And then when I played it, no. This Bach discipline had to be very regimented.
Strict, huh?
Oo, sabi niya sa akin. And then, sabi niya, you have to keep one position only. Don't move, just do it. So that the tones are all the same.
Consistent. Oh.
And make them. Really, can you do that myself? Of course, I do it in Germany. In Germany, I have an oscilloscope. hindi metronome, oscilloscope.
Oh.
Na nagme-measure ng kanyang tone, yung kanyang curve, tsaka yung beat niya.
Did not hear about that
Ganun
device,
siya,
huh?
ganun siya. Sabi niya, I practiced that for half a year, just that piece. Ganun siya.
It's so precise. But
Oo, kaya ang ganda ng Kaya yung gitara niya, yung Weisberger, parang papel yung gitara, yung gaan.
Pero
It's
lakas.
so beautiful, oh. 1923, yung gitara niya. Ang ganda yan, yung unang-una. So, padalas yun dito sa akin ng mga sabi mo nga Get Back, first time yan, kasi Goethe House ang nag-sponsor.
Yes.
When he get back in Germany, I will get your address and send you material. Ang dami pinapadala sa akin materials. Anak ng kwago, puro German naman. Hindi ko maintindihan. Pero binigyan niya ako ng isang record niya.
Yeah.
Yung kanyang, tapos meron pa siyang
Signature.
signature. Dito sa taas. Well, yun, yung mga artists, because you were asking yung mga
Yes.
ibang artists, there were plenty of other guys before. But the observation that I had before was that every time there's an artist who comes, everyone wants to do that. And then just, after a while, it rubs off.
Okay.
That's why I realized, sabi ko, hindi ganito dapat eh. Dapat tuloy-tuloy tayong mga Pilipino. To have a momentum of our own. And that's why I came up with that, concept, that philosophy, original Filipino guitar music. Walang transcription, ayun muna. That's why yun yung basis ng research ko.
Yeah.
And I played that in 1987. And that material, hiniram lahat ni Angelito Alcawili.
Si Sir
Si
Ace.
Ace.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's what he used as his thesis material for his
For the
PhD.
doctorate, yeah.
Nagdagdag ng iba lang doon. Finally, I also had a lot of duets. Si Billy Guerrero and of
Billy
course
Guerrero,
Joe Valdez, no? We had a long tour. Well, of course, featured in several TV stations, etc. Of course, I also appeared in a movie, this Amigo by John Sayles. It's an American film. And also, I wrote the guitar score for a Lynn Broca movie called Tinimbang Ka Ngunit Kulang.
Mhm.
There's a music there of the guitar.
Oh, really?
I did that with composer Gardy Laban.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yun. So, writing, letter. But the main output of that, what do you call this? Of that education is exactly the realization of that all Filipino original guitar music.
Yes.
That's it. So I did that research. I told you. Then I premiered, I played it in CCP. this was the guitar scene in the 70s and 80s. But you know, before us, before that 70s and 80s, well, let's talk about the 70s and
Yes,
80s.
yes.
At that time, very scarce, walang mga pyesa,
Yes.
hanap ka ng sarili mo, taguan pa nga. Pero si Pilot said sa akin, pansin niya mag-ano ka, mag-aral ka nung gusto mo. So, yeah. So, we were the what do you call this, the occasional impelling force for us to,
Yeah.
for the community, I'm talking to, for the community to really move forward with their guitar was the foreign artists. Yan.
Yes.
So nga, sila Brim, sila Yepes, ang daming ano, Russell, si Davisac, si Atreo, etc., etc. But every time after that, nawawala na. So, I was hooked when I realized the thing about, you know, what's this? When I was already thinking about what should be our parang heritage,
Yeah.
I started to question what was it before my generation? So I go back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s, yung panahon nila Pellicer.
Yeah.
And that's where I discovered very active. You know, part of it is mentioned in that book that I have. You know, they had a very active guitar world even before us. Pero ewan ko parang nag-fade na rin or ano. Pero sila Concepcion, sila Pedro Sarmiento,
I've heard that name as well.
sila Juan Silos Iho, sila Procopio Borromeo. Ang daming mga gitarista mga nag-ano, mayroong mga nag-recording pa sila. Ang source was parang two schools. One was Fernando Canon,
Yeah.
who started the guitar way back in 1920s. Tapos, in between, meron pang ibang school na gitarista. In fact, in San Miguel, in Malacanang, you know, that's known as San Miguel. There were islands, small islands, places there. There was a place there called Barrio de Guitarreros. Barrio Guitarreros. Because it was a small housing community, all guitar related. They were making guitars, they were playing guitars. Pero ang gitara is, ewan ko, walang masyadong umangat doon na classical guitarist.
Yeah.
Pero marami doon yung mga pang tuna, banda,
Pang
yung
chords,
rondalya, etc. Ayun ang mga instrumento doon. In fact, I think I heard that for a time si Antonio Luna was buying his guitar there. No, because Antonio Luna studied with Fernando Canon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, si Edsa,
I heard it's actually we're somewhat related to
ganun,
Edsa,
yeah.
kasi he was a Cristobal, I think.
ganun ba?
Yeah, and one of his last names. So
Mm.
I've heard about that too.
Yeah, he studied with also, when they were in the National Library. So, ang dami nilang So, I was able to push that up together by research. I was able to, I was holding on. Because, sabi ko, I don't know, where am I going to trace the root of this,
The
this
guitar,
gusto that I had with my generation, Apollo. Yung pala doon. Because, ang dami rin nilang mga iniwan na mga original na works nila, pero iiba yung kukunti yung mga na-publish saka na-perform. There's yung lolo ng si Juan Silos, ang ganda ng mga works niya. Nakita ko lang ito way back in the 90s already, kaya ang dami yung collection dyan eh. Pero he was in the classical mode of Fernando Soria,
Yes.
mga music niya, ang ganda. And then from Davao, gaganda ng mga pyesa niya.
Classical guitar pieces from Davao.
Binigay sa akin yun ng nung apo ni anak ni Juan Silos Jr. Yung naging pare, yung Jesuit, pero lumabas. He gave me that to study. So, these things. So, sabi ko, I wanted to resurrect that energy. That's why the research and everything, including the means to propagate it.
Yeah.
But I ended up, after the Jose Tomas competition, I ended up winning the one prize lang yun. Kasi dami nilang pera in the race eh.
Yeah.
Naka-race sila ilang million yun. Hindi na magamit yung pera. Dinonate ni Bayani de Leon sa UP. for a scholarship sa guitar. Basta guitar. That scholarship fund was never used. I think 5 years, 6 years. Until the time that they were able to find the candidate, and that was Florante Aguilar. He got the scholarship, he graduated, and in his concert in Paco Park, I went there, I met him, and then that's where we got to be friends. Yan, si Florante. Also, at the time, in the 60s, 80s, 70s, 80s, Mike Dunlap and I were very active in, organizing the guitar community. We had the Classical Guitar Society of the Philippines.
Yes.
He was the musical advisor, and I was the president. So I was the one doing things. In fact, the first concert of Joe in CCP, ako nag-arrange yun. Also with Mike Gonzalez, we brought him here. After that, umalis na si Mike, nagpunta ng Amerika sa New York.
Stayed there
Nakawala
na.
siya.
Pero sir, di ba, I think there was also a guitar community, like a small building or a place where there's guitar masters for sale.
Yeah.
There was scores that people
that
could
time.
buy. I think Sir
Yeah.
Joe mentioned something like that.
Meron sa si Joe kasi iba yung circle niya dahil flamenco siya, tsaka hindi siya masyado sumama sa amin sa Guitar Society. Pero ang meeting point doon was in UP, sa house nila NVM Gonzalez, because doon merong UP group. Ang dami yung mga writers, saka painters, pati si Abueva, Sinap Abueva. He was doing guitar. Ang dami doon. Doon nagkakaroon ng palitan ng mga scores. The other one was Guitar Masters, because yung Guitar Masters was very connected with the When that thing closed, that's the time I started my guitar shop in the 70s.
That's when you started doing the guitar
Yeah.
shop.
I took 3 or 4 workers. One of them was Tata. The other one was
From Cebu ata sila.
Yeah, yung si Tata, Cebu. Pero dito lang sa Guitar Master. Pero yung pinakamagaling, yung prodigy ni Flavio Bilbao, yung si Alex Ompad. And then, sister niya, yung si Ernie, naging asawa ni Tata.
Okay.
They all worked in my shop. Sayang, hindi ko mahanap yung old picture nung
Yes,
nag-start pa lang kami. I was still very young, thin, and everything.
But the guitar making.
Yeah. You know why, Adric? Because at that time, my experience with my Vicente Tatay, I couldn't afford to buy, the Spanish guitars. Kasi ang mga gumagamit ng gitara lang dito, yung mga diplomatic community, tsaka yung mga mayayaman sa Forbes Park.
It was really a niche, no? It
Oh,
such
that
a
was
niche
special.
market.
Ayun ang mga kliyente nila, ni Piliser tsaka ni Pedro Sarmiento. Pero yung the ordinary kids who are in college, wala, you're out of the, echa fuera kayo.
Yeah.
So, at the time, I said, I was already working and I had the means to earn. I said I wanted to make guitars that can be used by guitarists with start. And we started what we call that Casa Filipina. That's way back
That's
in
what
the
I was
70s.
Casa
Yeah.
Filipina.
And Casa Filipina Antigua. And my brother and I were doing something like 20 guitars a month.
A month? Huh?
Yeah, that's why I had 4 workers. Yung mga, yan, sila Tata,
Yeah.
Ang bilis, lahat yung mano. Nag-design ako ng mga scene. Pero, after a while, can you imagine one guitar selling for 200 pesos at that time?
Mahal na yun nun.
Oh, no, that's cheap because
sorry.
that's at the time when I was already,
The 80s na to.
late 70s, 80s. An office worker, newly graduate sa either SGB or other. Ang range of salary niya, 350 to 450 pesos a month. So 200 was just about half of your salary.
Yeah.
So that's very much affordable.
Right, pretty much.
So yun ang impetus nun. So I did it for about a year and a half because after a while I got tired. So I stopped it. And resumed it way back in the 80s. That's where that picture I gave you, Tata. That's where well, we were producing about 5 guitars a month. Gusto siya, he was earning good money. And I think that's the time when he bought that lupa in Kogyo.
Yeah.
I wanted to come up with a guitar that's gonna be made with all Filipino wood. Ito, this is a fundraise.
This is a 650 scale, no, sir?
665 or what?
Oh, 665. It's big.
Oh.
One more.
Cambodian rosewood.
Parang the scale length being 665.
Yeah, because I wanted to get more tension.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Tsaka they say that it vibrates more, no? Because of the length.
Kasi mas malakas yung hila ng kwerdas eh. I was explaining to Tuason last time, remember? If you have a small small string, yung hila to reach the tone is only so much force. But hinabaan mo yung kwerdas, kailangan mo mas malakas yung force. Kaya kung mas malakas yung force, malakas yung palo mo dun sa bridge. You produce.
It really feels a little bigger nga lang, no?
Ha?
It really feels, like
Malaki?
a little
Mahaba?
bit mahaba.
Yeah.
It feels a little longer than
Yeah.
the 650. But it sounds deeper than a 650. Because I also felt this with the Ramirez 1A na 664. Parang mas
Para sa kamay ni Segovia
Oo,
yan. Ipang 665 yata yung kay...
interesting sound, ah.
Kaya ayun yung characteristic sound ng spruce. Yeah.
Ganda, sir. And Cambodian rose.
Yep.
Where did
I
you
have a lot of that. I bought it here. Someone was putting up a kind of condominium or what. Ginagamit nilang pandahin sa elevator. Parang ganda ng kahoy eh. Yung kaibigan ko, I was still working in the construction industry at that time. I said, hey, Raul, there's an nice set of pinasok nung mga So, really? Rosewood? Wow, okay. So, and then I went. It was bodega, talagang like a gymnasium. Puro ko high up to
All rosewoods,
to the rafters, yeah. So yun, naghanap ako yung pick out, and then I got several planks. I had a Peugeot van before.
Yeah.
Punong-puno
ng kahoy?
ng kahoy. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, I have enough wood to make myself a coffin.
The rosette's very...
That's John Gilbert. That's a Gilbert rosette inspired.
This was 2017.
Yeah. Kasi wala akong affinity sa Moorish.
Oh, just the Spanish style. Oh.
Moorish hindi. Sunod nga, hanap na ako nung local na inspiration eh. Meron akong ginawa yung para kay Greg Yu, yung rosette ng Bulacan, Market 3, yung mga ganyan, may But I'm still repairing his guitar eh, kasi nag-crack sa likod. Kung siguro parating nasa aircon, nag-run. So I'm repairing it.
And you have can we try the other ones as well, sir? Can we try the other guitars
Oh,
as well?
sure. Okay, so that's one. So let's try this one.
This is what's the materials of this? Cambodian rosewood pa rin.
Oo.
And
Para constant yung yung factor mo. So you'll just worry about the top, the bracing, and the proportions of the measurement.
so at this stage, the top is the only thing you experiment with more.
Yeah, now because I want to keep constant back. So, but in the next coming batch of guitars, I will now use my. I had Brazilian rosewood before.
Brazilian.
Oh, bawal na yun eh. In fact, yung gitarang dala ni Jam sa Barcelona was German spruce and Brazilian. So I have a lot of Indian rosewood, Cocobolo.
Cocobolo.
Yeah, I have Cocobolo.
That's also very good.
Yeah.
And the top of this is
That one is red cedar.
red cedar. Wow.
Experimental pa rin yan lahat
It's a bit warmer than the
Yeah.
spruce.
That's lattice brace na.
That is
Kaya yung ano no, kaya ibang-iba doon sa fan brace. Ngayon, gagawa ko ng isang cedar na fan brace para ma-compare ko yung sound nila. Pero I'm almost sure hindi malalayo dun sa isa. So, that one. So, and then, right? So, the third one, I'd like you to see.
Of course, the action can vary depending on the
Oo,
player,
yeah.
di ba, sir?
Sa buto lang naman yun eh.
Oo.
And this one, I told you, is what I have finally worked on. The aesthetics is not yet, kasi nagmadali ako, gusto ko naman dinig yung sound, kaya I still have to fix it.
You started making guitars in the 80s, di ba, sir?
70s.
70s.
Yeah.
This feels like 650 or 66?
That's also, I think, 655.
Oh, okay. This is a bit more. I feel like this is a bit brighter, a bit.
Na?
It responds a little quicker, I guess.
Yeah, ang tawag ni Mike, sabi sa akin, tunog mayabang.
It's a bit tight here. Can I?
Go ahead, go ahead. Sige.
It's not gonna pop, kaya?
No, it's not.
Parang mas ano to? Boom.
Yeah, it's
So this is still Cambodian back inside.
but the top is what I told you. The Philippine cedar.
Philippine cedar.
Yeah.
It's really, really unique, huh?
Yeah. And that's just the initial design because I'm still making calculations that will improve it further.
And bracing is what, sir?
Ah?
Bracing is.
Lattice pa rin, pareho nung isa.
But the
Pero
top
iba,
is not.
iba yung proportion.
Is it a thin top also?
No, the top is the Philippine cedar.
No, but the thickness, because a small man's lattice
Of course, I
is
have to
very
vary
thin,
that.
you know.
I know, because I have to compute the variation. The one I told you about the laser.
Yeah. I'll tune up muna.
Hindi masyado kasi natutugtog, kaya hindi nag-aano yung ano eh. I don't play very much already. This is the influence of Jose Tomas on me. So, I built it, but I have not played it for a long, long time. It's not even, because I had to... There, it's an 8-string guitar. Yun, nakita mo dun sa litrato, with Jose Tomas, di ba? This one is an 8-string. So, it's spruce, German spruce, and then this is Brazilian rosewood.
Brazilian?
Yeah, the brown variety. See, mabango siya. Tignan mo. I have to finish that. It started way back in the 70s pa.
This guitar?
Yeah.
It looks quite new for a guitar from the 70s.
Yeah. Well, kasi nakalagay lang siya dito eh. Pero tatapusin ko siya. Once I finish it, because I have a lot of literature that Jose Tomas gave me. That's, for 8-string guitar, for 8-string music. I'll tackle that later on. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So how many guitars are you working on now?
Good question. 1, 2, 3. There are 3. The ukulele. It's a ukulele. I have to go finish my friend. And then I have 1 batch of 4 that's coming up. Kasi the deed of the provenance of my work for the guitar has 4 groupings. National figures, persons of guitar. So, meron ng General Luna, which is kay Greg Yu, na I'm repairing it. Meron nga ng Pellicer. So I have to finish the Concepcion, Silos, EDSA, and Evangelista. And maybe I'll add up Valdez, Guerrero, and even Timwat. They're my friends, yeah. So, meron pa yan. So, marami pa yun, obviously. I also have the mountain series because doon nga sa Point Point, di ba? Started with killing of a tree and you get this in the mountains there. So, I have already finished Mount Bulusan, the Twin Peaks of Bulusan. I have Arayat. And then I still have to work on Mayon. There are 4 more mountains that I have to pay tribute to. So may mga stories yan related sa akin personally.
Yes, yes.
Kasi when I look at, let's go back here and show you
Yes,
why.
yes.
When I confront the wood, that's, no, it's just there in my stock. Oh. It's there in my cabinet. Ano yan sila. So every time I start the guitar, I talk to the wood. I have a conversation with the wood.
Mhm.
Ano bang gusto mo ipakita sa akin? What do you want to show me? You think like that.
You make a connection with
Yeah.
the wood itself.
So, that's why ito si Bulusan. This is, as you can see there, no? It's Mount Bulusan, the Twin Peaks, that's the name there inside.
Should we take a video?
Oh, it's Bulusan. There are 2, later you can,
Okay.
can focus. Because when I was looking at the wood, sabi ko, ano pang gusto mo sabihin sa akin ng kahoy? And then when I joined the wood, suddenly, oh, there you are.
The mountains.
Twin Peaks. And then the volcano is spewing smoke. That's why it's Twin Peaks, Bulusan. So that's the deed of provenance. So there's a document where I write the story and everything. So, yan.
It is. You can make the same way. Because some people say you can make the same guitar with different wood, like the same measurements, same. It made differences pa rin daw.
Meron. That's, you know, miskin sabihin mo yung mga mass-produced, meron silang pagbabago. Di ba yung si Ramirez, he was what? He made total of 20,000 Ramirez guitars. Pero pag pinakinggan mo, supposed to be pareho yung braces niyan. Pero pag kinumpir mo yung kay Bernabe, yung ginawa ni... Kasi meron siya yung Golden Age eh. Si Bernabe, sino pa ba isa? Meron kang iba-iba. That's why si Ramirez mismo, yung era na yon, mga 60s to early 70s, doon sa loob ng gitara, sa heel, merong naka-curve doon. Una, PB. Alam niya kung sino gumawa. Pero later on, nung na-discover na ng mga buyers, lahat ng gusto nilang bilhin yung PB.
Oo.
Okay, iba, yung kay... Oh, my God. Anyway, Contreras ba? Something.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Manuel Contreras.
Oh. Anyway, so yun ang nangyari. Ayaw ni Ramirez, nagalit si Ramirez III. Sabi niya, tama na yan. Kaya ang ginawa niya, nilagyan niya na lang ng parang code number dun sa ilalim ng gitara. Wala na yung mark na yun. So even if because that shows na kahit pareho yung
Design.
kahoy, design lahat. Pag ginawa ng isang kamay, ng artist, ng luthier, iba't merong ibang lalabas.
I even heard a story from a friend of mine that Segovia would go to the Ramirez shop and he would test the new guitars by the different makers. And if he would like a certain guitar, he would say, "Who made this?" And si Paulino Bernabe was often like the one coming forward kasi Segovia often liked Paulino Bernabe's guitars.
Kaya nagsarili na siya, si
Shop,
Paulino
which is also a
Bernabe.
very successful brand.
Oo.
I think I'm really more of a spruce guy,
Oo.
than a cedar. meron. Interesting.
Yung spruce, ano kasi, maganda yung, ano, may properties siya talaga eh. Pero may mga tao na din, gusto nila yung ano ng cedar eh. So, it's now divided na ano.
Si Sir Joe is a cedar guy.
Yeah.
He always tells
Yeah.
me he loves the
Oh.
cedar much better.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it fits him more, he says.
Yeah. Tsaka, meron kasing yung response ng gitara sa playing style mo. Yun ang ano eh. Siguro sa kanya yung tone production, everything. Gusto yun kasi spruce can be a little hard to play.
It can be.
It's very hard.
Your nails,
Yeah.
if you don't file your nails properly,
Yeah.
spruce can bring them out.
Yes. And even the
Or-
attack.
Also.
The angle of attack.
Yeah,
Ang
cedar
dami,
is also
ano.
better for traveling, they say. It's adjusted the weather better though.
Sabi sa akin ni Jose Tomas, kasi cedar yung kanyang 8 string, yun doon sa litrato.
Mhm.
Dinala niya yun, nag-concert tour siya ng mga 3 months sa Nordic countries, Scandinavia. Believe siya dun sa ano, kasi stable, hindi nag-crack
Yeah,
with all
I
the
heard
extreme
that.
weather, sabi niya. Kaya bentang-benta siya sa cedar. Ewan ko kung rosewood. Nako,
That's the one.
that's just one, yeah. Marami siya eh.
It's,
Let me see, ha?
Kung di
Ito yung mga studies na ginagawa ko sa Rosette.
These are the Rosette experiments over here.
Sa yung rosewood dito. Ito, this one. Oh, this is the Philippine rosewood. Philippine.
That's what I've been curious about.
Yeah. Ito, ano, very, ano ba yun? Ito yung mga, ano,
These are the wood experiments.
ito, board too. You know, it's just here, it's so hard to, mga rosewood, summer sides, lahat. Summer here, ebony, what else? Yung mga top na doon sa likod, naka-cover eh. Doon, no? Covered siya eh. Yeah, it's just so hard to get it all out.
This is the most important part of the shop, I think. This poem that
That's the philosophy.
apology to nature. The philosophy is
Yeah, here. So this one is a case for the ukulele I'm doing for my friend. Yeah, that's it. It's very small, ano, but intense ang action dito.
and you make your own tools as
Yeah.
well, no?
Like for example, you know, I am a believer of composites. Eh. You'll notice, I have this one, ganito, composite siya, hindi siya solid na kahoy. Because you can really precisely do the measurements when you put it together. And all other tools, mga magari, well, standard. Chisel, they're, well, some things that I do. I heat it, I forge it, and then make it into a sharp cutting instrument. That's very small, nothing much to see.
Very much. But a lot of hard work here.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so Maestro Raul,
Okay.
thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your time, all the stories, the guitars.
Thank you for giving this time too.
It's our pleasure. So once again, everyone, Adrian Cristobal on the video making, Mr. Runil Santos, as always, and see you on the next episodes. And thank you again, Maestro.
Okay, thank you.